Coming up on COS Now, it was another action-packed week for Convention of States, with key legislative battles and major media endorsements driving momentum forward. Support for Article 5 gained traction in the media, with Daily Wire and Blaze TV hosts highlighting the urgent need for constitutional reform. All that and more on COS Now.
What do we want? When do we want it? Now!
Happy Monday, everybody. I'm your host, Rachel Martin, and this is COS Now, the show where we break down all the latest news in the Convention of States movement. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so that you never miss any upcoming content that we have for you guys. With that, let's get into today's stories. Last Monday, the Kansas House Committee on Federal and State Affairs held a public hearing on COS Action's Article 5 application. Here's longtime COS volunteer Bob Strader testifying in favor.
While at a fuel stop, there were some men hanging around complaining about the government, and one of them said something like, "How much longer do you think people will put up with this before we have another civil war?" The only time in recorded history that a war of this type has ever reduced the size of government was our American Revolution. War is not the answer. I Googled Article 5 Convention and found Convention of States Project, and I wondered why we haven't already done this. The U.S. Constitution, and especially Article 5, make it clear that the states are to be in charge.
The committee advanced the resolution on a voice vote to the full House for debate. If passed by that body, Kansas would become the 20th state to join the movement. On Thursday evening, the Hawaii Senate held a public hearing of its own, with several local supporters showing up at the Capitol in support.
A convention of states can allow us to propose amendments to tackle term limits, fiscal responsibility, and federal overreach. We need your support to take action so Hawaii can lead the way in holding the federal government accountable. Please vote yes on SCR 140 and SR 158.
Despite COS volunteers outnumbering and outclassing the opponents, who said some truly ludicrous things about the movement, the committee voted to defer the resolution. You can watch that full hearing at conventionofstates.com/COS Live. Convention of States earned free coverage on the airwaves thanks to our friends at the Daily Wire and Blaze TV. COS endorser Steve Deace interviewed Rick Santorum to get his thoughts on why an Article 5 convention is desperately needed to fix our long-term federal problems.
And so the fact that we're sitting here right now with a judicial coup underway to try to essentially take all of the momentum away from this administration, nullify this last election, I think that's even more of an argument for why we need to have more and more vehicles in place, Rick, that restore power back directly to the people like a convention of states does.
100% agree with you, Stephen. What we need is the states to respond in supporting Trump by doing this convention to get some of that power back to the people and back to the states, which is what Trump is trying to do.
On Wednesday's show, Ben Shapiro, who is also an official endorser of Convention of States, had this to say.
Chris says, "Hey Ben, as a person that lives in a conservative state that has established and follows laws that require a balanced budget and places caps on budget increases, it's maddening to watch the federal deficit continue to balloon. Other than a convention of states, what other legal pathways could the states pursue to rein in irresponsible spending by the federal government or punish it for not doing so?" The states don't have a lot of recourse here. They really don't. I mean, they used to. It used to be that senators were selected by state legislatures. That was a better system. I mean, you could call a convention of states and pursue a constitutional amendment. It's something that I've called for in the past.
And that brings us to the final 5 highlights. Texas Representative Cody Vasut joined our friends at TPPF to brief viewers on the legislation he's sponsoring that would help Texas at the forefront of the Article 5 movement.
I have a lot of constituents that, of course, want to rein in the federal government. I mean, if we look at the polling data on this, there's broad support, both Republicans, Democrats, and Independents, for everything that's in this application. So this is not a partisan issue. So my folks back home want to rein in the federal government. They want congressional term limits. They want to have a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution. Those two things are never going to happen. Congress is never going to term limit themselves. Congress is never going to adopt a balanced budget amendment. But the states can, and so my folks support it back home.
This week, Capitol events will be held in Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and North Carolina. To learn more about our events, check out conventionofstates.com/act to contact your local COS team. COS at Home announced that next month's special guest will be Tim Barton, president of Wall Builders. You can catch that exclusive interview at conventionofstates.com/at home. COS volunteers continue to earn local media coverage, including in Vermont and Hawaii. Here are some of my favorite snapshots recently submitted by COS Patriots across the country, including in Alabama, Florida, Connecticut, Oregon, Tennessee, Vermont, and Texas. And that's all for this week's recap. Be sure to share this video with other COS Patriots and leave your thoughts in the comments down below. I'll see you same time next week here on COS Now.